Here in this video we are gonna do 10 gods of death from various different cultures from all over the world, showcasing them in short. So let's get to it. Number 1. From Greek mythology, the Greek god of death called Thanatos, not Thanos, and also not Hades, who was the god of the dead, not the god of death. He was often depicted as a winged figure holding a sword and was known to be merciless and relentless. Thanatos was the twin brother of Hypnos, the hypnotic god of sleep. Together, they were responsible for guiding the souls of the dead to the underworld, where they would be judged by Hades, the ruler of the underworld. Thanatos was not always portrayed as a negative or malevolent figure, but many times he is. In some myths, he was seen as a gentle and peaceful deity who helped to ease the pain and suffering of the dying. He was also sometimes depicted as a winged youth, suggesting that he represented the transition between life and death rather than just the end of life. Number 2. From Norse mythology, Hel or Hela is the Norse goddess of death, the ruler of the underworld, also known as Hel. She is often depicted as half dead, half alive, a woman with a pale complexion, reflecting the duality of life and death, and also weird hentai. She is not considered to be a malevolent figure in Norse mythology, but rather a neutral one who carries out her duties as the ruler of the underworld. In fact, many Norse warriors hoped to die bravely in battle so that they could meet her in person, and so that they could be taken to the brighter half of Hel's realm called Valhalla. Despite her neutral role in the afterlife, Hel is sometimes associated with evil and darkness due to her parentage and her association with death. Her appearance and demeanor also contribute to this perception. Number 3. From Hindu mythology, here Yama is the god of death and the lord of the underworld. He is also known as Dharmaraja, meaning the king of righteousness, as he is responsible for judging the souls of the dead and sending them to their appropriate afterlife destinations based on their karma or the deeds during life. He is often depicted with blue or black skin and has a crown on his head, riding on a buffalo. He is also sometimes shown holding a noose which he uses to capture the souls of the dead and bring them to his realm. Despite his association with death and judgment, he is not seen as a malevolent figure in Hindu mythology. Rather, he is considered to be a fair and a just judge who enforces the laws of the cosmic order. His role as the lord of the underworld is also seen as a necessary thing in the cycle of birth and death, as it allows for the soul to be reborn, to be reincarnated. Number 4. Chinese mythology. So, having close ties with, or maybe a version of the Indian god of death, Yama, King Yan is the god of death and oversees the 10 kings of hell in its capital called Yodu. In both ancient and modern times, King Yan is portrayed as a large man with a scowling red face, with bulging eyes and a long beard. He wears a traditional robe and also a judge's cap or crown which bears the Chinese character for the king. King Yan is not only the ruler but also the judge of the underworld and passes judgment on all the dead. He always appears in a male form, and his minions include a judge who holds in his hands a brush and a book listing every soul and the allotted death date for every life. Oxhead and Horseface are the guardians of hell, bring in the newly dead one by one before Yan for judgment. Number 5. From Japanese mythology, Izanami is the goddess of death and creation in Japanese myths. She is one of the primary gods and goddesses in the Shinto religion, which is the indigenous religion of Japan. According to myths, Izanami was created along with her brother and husband Izanagi by the god of heaven to create the islands of Japan. They used a spear to stir the ocean, and from the drops that fell from the spear, the islands of Japan were formed. However, when Izanami gave birth to the god of fire, she was badly burned and eventually died. Izanagi was grief-stricken and went to the underworld to try and bring her back. But when he saw her in her decaying state, he was horrified and fled back to the world of the living. She was then stuck in the underworld to rule as the goddess of death. Number 6. From Aztec mythology. So from South America we have Mictlantecutli, who is the god of the underworld and the dead. He is often depicted as a skeletal figure with a skull-like face and a staff, and is associated with death, decay, and the earth. According to myth, Mictlantecutli ruled over Mictlan, the underworld where the souls of the dead when after they pass away. The journey to Mictlan was a difficult and dangerous one, and souls had to pass through 9 different underworlds to reach their final destination. Mictlantecuhtli was responsible for judging the souls of the dead and assigned them to their appropriate afterlife destinations based on their deeds during life. Mictlantecuhtli was also associated with sacrifice and was sometimes depicted holding a sacrificial knife. Human sacrifices in the past were believed to be necessary to appease him and ensure a safe journey for the souls of the dead. Number 7 from Fiji mythology. So this one is called Dege, the deity, and is considered the supreme god of the Fiji in Fijian mythology, taking the form of a serpent. He is credited with creating the world, fruits, and people. After death, souls are judged by Dege in one of 2 caves, with some being sent to paradise and others being thrown into a lake for appropriate reward or punishment. Dege is associated with earthquakes, storms, and seasons, and his movements can bring rain, fruit, and a bountiful yam harvest. However, he is also capable of punishing his people through floods or destroying crops. Dege is described as having an insatiable hunger and the power to destroy the entire world if he wishes to. Number 8 from Egyptian mythology. Although the title of god of death is also shared with Osiris, Anubis is also a god, often depicted as a man with a jackal's head or as a full jackal in bipedal form. He was considered to be the god of embalming, mummification, and the afterlife. Anubis was believed to watch over the process of mummification and to guide the souls of the dead through the afterlife. He would weigh the hearts of the deceased against a feather, representing the concept of Ma'at, which represents truth and the order of the universe. If the heart was lighter than the feather, the soul will be allowed to enter the afterlife. If it was heavier, the soul would be devoured by the monster called Amit. Number 9 from Slavic mythology. Morana is a Slavic pagan goddess of death and rebirth. She is associated with the end of winter and the coming of spring, and in ancient Slavic rituals her death marks the rebirth of 3 other goddesses called Kostroma, Lada, and Vesna, symbolizing the arrival of spring. Some Christian sources compared her to the Greek goddess Hecate, while others saw similarities with the Roman goddess called Ceres. In modern times, the rituals associated with Morana have lost their religious significance and are now a festive way to celebrate the start of spring. The tradition is typically observed around the spring equinox in late March. Number 10 from African mythology. So in one of those many African myths, in the Asante and Akan mythology of West Ghana, Owo is the god of death. According to legend, he was created by a god called Odumankoma, possibly to kill humans and even other deities, including himself. Owo represents the end of creative process in the world, symbolizing the termination of the great creator. Owo is depicted as an extremely cruel and cannibalistic god who kills indiscriminately. He is said to have killed his creator immediately after being created, and in some versions of the story, he even attempted to kill all 3 supreme beings. He is believed to be invincible and has attempted to instill fear in humans and claiming dominion over mankind. So I hope you have enjoyed watching this video. Do hit that like button for support and subscribe. But most of all, smash that bell icon for regular updates on new videos right here on this channel. Till the next one, take care guys.